A long time.
So today's year we're dedicating for the Refuah Shalom of Brucha At Bas Zata and Leilu Nishmat
Avram
Shmuel
Ben Sprinza.
Ben Sprinza. Usually when you do Nishmat Ben Hillel, okay. Did you let him in?
Oh yeah, we appreciate the welcome.
Okay, so yesterday we got up with an Einem Moshiach, and we got to the bottom of page 17, and so the last thing that was said. Does he need anything there? Can you check?
No, he's okay. I think he went to the bathroom.
Oh, no. Okay, it's okay, fine. No, he's here.
Here he is.
Michal, do you want a drink?
Not yet, thank you.
So the last piece we did yesterday was on the bottom of 17, and we were Shlomo was quoting that there's emet lamito, and there's shalom, right? There's my truth, there's your truth, there's truth for both of us. And then there's also the aspect of shalom, which is even higher, which is actually difficult to understand, but we looked in the Gemara of the Kameh and a passage called about Takanat HaShavim. In other words, we'll read again page 18, and that will help clarify things a bit. Kulam yadim sheMashiach hu mamash b'bchinat Shem Hashem. So what's been discussed so far this whole time is Einei Mashiach and Einei Nevuah. The term Einei Nevuah is being used as seeing and reading information. Okay? In other words, you see A and you understand B. Okay? In other words, you see the consequences of, but it's still very much superficial. In other words, it's factual. Einei Mashiach is seeing deeper. So, for example, Kulam Yodim Shemashiyach Hu Mamash B'Bchinat Shem Hashem. Starting at the top of 18 again.
What are you reading?
Page
18.
18.
18 with top.
We read this paragraph yesterday, but we're reading it again. Kulam Yodim Shemashiyach Hu Mamash B'Bchinat Shem Hashem. Moshiach is on the level of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now, that statement over there was a pretty Kabbalistic statement, and don't think that we understand it just like that. I don't understand it completely, not yet. And so don't, it's better when you don't understand something, it's better to say I don't understand it than to think that you understand it. Because if you think you understand it, then you're not going to learn any more about it. Moshiach lo yichpat lo ma'amet. Moshiach doesn't care what the truth is. Ki ha'emet hi ramat nevuah. The truth is on the level of nevuah. Facts, superficial facts. Now, again, be careful with that statement when it says Moshiach doesn't care about what the truth is. What he's saying is Moshiach doesn't care about the superficial truth only.
He doesn't just care about the simple.
In other words, the superficial facts alone, he doesn't care about. In other words, he cares about more. To take that statement literally, that he doesn't care about the truth, can mislead somebody to doing some really stupid and bad things. Okay? As we see happening all the time.
We see happening in this paragraph.
So ki ha'emet hi ramat nevuah. Emet, the definition of emet is what we call factual information. אני לא מעוניין באמת, אני מעוניין במשהו יותר, הרבה יותר עמוק. I don't want to know just the truth. I want to know something a lot deeper. For example, in last week's parasha and the week before, right, there's a number of rebellions that the Jewish people are making, right? And on a couple of occasions, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, step aside, I'm going to wipe out these people, okay? It happens in Parshas Shlach with the Meraglim. Can you get the door, please? Oh, it's okay, they're coming in. So, for example, in Parshas Shlach with the Meraglim, or also with the Mitonanim, when you're complaining about the meat, or when with Korach, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, step aside, I'll wipe out the people, and I'll make you into a greater nation. Now, on the level of Emet, right? What was going on? The people did something really bad, right? After the Egel, the same thing goes on, right? Hashem offers Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to wipe out these people, and we'll make a new strain of the people from you, a higher level, a higher quality Jew, you've heard of such things, higher quality people, right?
Yeah.
And Moshe Rabbeinu says, no. Now, on the level of Emet, Hashem's offer makes perfect sense. You're running a school. Michal used to be a principal. You're running a school. You get a bunch of You get a class of a bunch of really rough kids, and they're ruining the school. So what do? You expel them, right?
Right.
Well, I remember we used to have this teacher, these English teachers. They used to say, "One rotten apple spoils the barrel," right? Which is possibly true. In other words,
you have the saying that
but it makes
most,
the
most
cider.
rotten plums make the sweetest jam.
Make the sweetest jam.
I like
That's
that.
right.
You ever heard that?
I have a
rotten apple makes the cider.
I have a grandnephew kicked out of everyday school in Queens, and now he's going to go to public school because there's no issue to take it. He's
Okay.
ADHD.
So,
years old.
So it's
No.
it's a tragedy. Okay, so on the level of Emet, the kid is making a lot of trouble. You know, there's actually, I heard a story from a rabbi in Montreal who heard the story from this man actually. What I'm saying is that this Rabbi Ephraim Oshri, I've actually met him once. He's still on the Lower East Side, and there's a book called "Responsible from the Holocaust." In any case, he told this neighbor of mine the following story. That once the Chofetz Chaim was visiting some city, maybe in Lithuania, maybe Bialystok, and people were coming to speak with him and get blessings and advice and so on. And there was one, and they had like an assistant. So when you wanted to see the Chofetz Chaim, first you'd go to the assistant and he'd write down your name and he'd go in and tell the Chofetz Chaim the next person coming in is so and so. So there was one man that came and wanted to see the Chofetz Chaim, and the Chofetz Chaim said, "I don't want to see him." Refused entry. So the Gabbai comes out, and he says, "I'm sorry, the Chofetz Chaim doesn't want to see you." So he was very upset and very hurt, and he wrote a note saying, "I promise you, I will not talk about anything that I had in mind that I wanted to talk about. But please allow me in because I want to know why you're upset with me. Why? What did I do that you're so upset with me?" So on that basis, the Chofetz Chaim agreed to have him come in. And he says, "What did you were a school principal, right?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Did you ever kick a kid out of your school?" He says, "Yeah, it happened once. There was a kid in grade 3 or grade 4. And there was a controversy between his father and the board. They said that he has to pay tuition. He said he can't afford tuition. The end was that he got sent out." So the Chofetz Chaim says to him, and this was many years ago, says to him, "And did you keep touch with this kid? He's now a grown-up. Are you in touch with him? Do you know who it is?" Can I get the door, please? If you'll sit over here, I can see you when I'm teaching. Yeah. So let him in, and I'm gonna. Okay, fine. He got it. Okay. So he
It's a good story.
I'm waiting. You know the story already, I know.
So, but you,
So he says, "Did you ever kick a kid out of the school?" This is the Chofetz Chaim talking to a man who used to be a principal of a school in Bialystok. So he said, "Yeah, we years ago we had to send somebody away because the father said he can't afford to pay tuition, and the school said he could pay, and we fought with him for a couple of years, and eventually he got kicked out." So the Chofetz Chaim says, "Did you keep touch with this boy?" So he said, "No." "Do you know where he is now?" She says, "No." She says, "Let me tell you who it is. It's Leonid Trotsky. You heard of Trotsky? Trotsky was one of the leaders of the Communist Party together with Stalin, right? And Trotsky was a fabulous orator, and he would come into a town, and in one speech, he'd convince everybody to be communist. They say that yeshiva boys would go to listen to him, and they didn't even go back to close the Gemara. Okay? Now, on the level, we're on page 18. On the level of Emet, facts are, the guy didn't want to pay tuition. Facts are, school has expenses. You're not paying your tuition. You're not carrying your load. Goodbye. Right? Facts are, the guy goes into a store, shoplifts, goodbye, right? You're guilty, right? But then there's deeper than Ein Nevuah. There's Emet Lamito, right? And Emet Lamito is going for the deeper truth, and the fact is that this guy is starving, if that's the case, right? And and you see that he alone is not the only guilty party, right? Society has a shtickle responsibility here too, right? And shalom is even higher, is on the level of we don't even see that something wrong was done. Now that's hard to imagine, okay? But for example, I remember once hearing that the mother of a criminal was interviewed, and she was asked, like, like, how do you feel about your son? And she said, he's my son. I love him. She didn't see that he's, when her love was such that she didn't see that he's a criminal. Now, what Shlomo was getting at over here, if I may say so, and I hope that it's accurate, the Ishbitzer speaks about it in this week's parsha also. Oh, we need someone to get the door again. That's my secretary, actually, but she's not coming in. Okay. In this week's parsha, it is actually. In this week's parsha, the Ishbitzer speaks about it, and the question is, and I'll tell you the honest truth, I don't quite understand this Ishbitzer, like many others. But the question is, when you do something wrong, never mind about somebody else. Let's say about your own self. Your own self, not you. You never. Lo nagei alach.
loves you so much, you don't get
Okay. So what's the what happens? What happens after you did something wrong? The what's his name? One of the Hasidic rabbis in Monsey. Nikolaever? Yeah, I think one of the Hasidic rabbis there. I met him one day. David, you want a drink, by the way? You have some good water? No? You want some cold air on you? No, you have the fan. You have the fan. Turn it around. Turn. No, I'm not going to wake you up. Just you can lie down if you want. Shlomo wouldn't wake people up if they fell asleep. I just thought you might want a drink. No, it's okay. I just thought you wanted a drink. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Of the Nichols-burger, that's who I'm talking about. The Nichols-burger. You heard of the Nichols-burger? I actually met him the first time he came to when Shlomo was sitting Shiva for Eli Chaim, and he came on Motzei Shabbos, and I was sitting next to Reb Shlomo and him when he was being Menachem over. So he told me an interesting Dvar Torah. In Tfilat Aravit, right? You've heard about Mariv, right?
Only in the evening. I only hear about
only in the evening. You heard about this guy makes Aliyah, and so there's a vendor running in the streets selling the newspaper, Mariv, 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 and then a few minutes later he hears somebody running, Yediot Achronot, Yediot Achronot. He says, oh my gosh. Anyway, he didn't, right? Okay. So he tells me that in the davening we say, Vasir Satan milfanenu umeacharenu. Remove the Satan from in front of us and from behind us, right? Actually, the first Rashi in the Parsha, Zot Chukat Torah, he actually speaks about the Satan also. Very interesting Rashi. So, Vasir Satan milfanenu umeacharenu. Remove the Satan in front of us and behind us.
What's the word? Basis?
Vahaser, remove, Vahaser.
Okay.
Vahaser Satan. So what is it? What does that mean? So he says like this. So let's say when it comes to doing a mitzvah, right? What does the Satan do? Now the word Satan, it's actually is next week's parsha, is to block, to block. Okay, like the malach comes and blocks Bilam, and the donkey sits down. So the Satan comes and tries to block you from doing a mitzvah. That's the Satan milfanenu, Satan in front of us. Me'acharenu, if you didn't listen to the Satan and he comes, so he doesn't give up, he's going to still try to get you after you did the mitzvah. How does he try to get you after the mitzvah? He says, oh, you did such a, before the mitzvah, he says, oh, you're not holy enough. This is such a holy thing. If you didn't listen to him and you did the mitzvah anyway, then the Satan comes and says, wow, you're so awesome. You did this mitzvah. You're like, you're great. Tries to get you under gava. When it comes to a transgression, so the Satan, before the transgression, the Satan comes in and says, oh, this is such a fun thing to do. Like, why do you want to be so religious? Like, let's have some fun. And then if you give in to the Satan after the transgression, the Satan comes and says, don't even bother trying to do tshuva anymore. You're my customer for life. Right? And what did you once say, Michal? What's the difference about an Avera? What do you say before the Avera? What do you say after the Avera?
Before the Avera, you say, Avera, you say, oi.
Oi vey.
Before a mitzvah, you say, oi. And after the mitzvah, you say, I heard that here, by the way.
Did you hear that?
I heard that here.
Okay. So
one of the few things I remember.
And despite the fact that he only remembers the few things, he remembers more than me. Okay, so what's the point here? The point is like this, that after the transgression, see the Satan or the Yetzer Hara or the two of them come and they say, you know what? This transgression that you did, this proves that you are rotten to the core. No matter what you're going to do, no matter how much effort you're going to make to do tshuva and so on, you're just rotten to the core.
That's after.
Yeah, let's say after, yeah. And we fall for it. Like maybe people fall for it. Maybe they'll try 5 more times to do tshuva, maybe 10 more times to do tshuva. But the fact is that what they call, we are often repeating offenders, right? I heard a talk about Lashon Hara, how terrible it is. I decided I'm never going to talk Lashon Hara again. I'm not going to listen to Lashon Hara again. 3 months go by. I didn't do any Lashon Hara. I didn't speak any Lashon Hara. And boom, crash. And I'm here listening in on Lashon Hara or speaking Lashon Hara, right? Or I heard this drasha about how terrible it is to tell a lie. For 6 months, I managed to be perfectly honest. Comes all of a sudden a crash, right? So there's something comes and says, you see, I don't care how many times you tried. The fact is that you're rotten to the core. Now, is that the truth or is that not the truth? So Vishvasa says, and everybody says, that concerning a Yiddish neshama, there's no such thing that can make your pintele yid, that can make your nekudah pnimit as a Jew. It cannot that Pintalayid always remains pure. Okay? So, in the union of Shalom, okay, and let's see if we're going somewhere that makes sense. If it doesn't, please tell me. We've explained already a number of times that Shalom means whole and complete, right? Yeah? Yes?
Yes.
You agree?
Um,
From the word Shalem.
Yeah.
That's what Shalom is. We've explained that Shalom is not just that I'm not fighting with you, but rather that together we are complete.
Many more things than that too.
Okay, I don't want to go and extrapolate it too much. I'm going with this particular point right now, okay? The word Shalom comes from the root Shalem,
Right.
whole, complete. So that's basically the core meaning of Shalom. Now, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, these people are really bad. Now, what Hashem is doing is, in effect, he's actually testing Moshe Rabbeinu. But in any case, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, these people are really, really did a terrible thing. I'm going to wipe them out. I'm going to make a new strain of the nation from you. Moshe Rabbeinu says no. Because Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, without them, I'm not complete. Now, it's true that they did something that is going to require serious tshuva. But without them, I'm not complete. Okay? You hear that? Without them, I'm not complete. See, so Hashem is also saying, Moshe Rabbeinu is also saying to Hashem, if you wanted perfect people, perfect beings, you had all these angels. You didn't have to create us. Right? You know the Gemara when Hashem is giving the Torah to Israel, the angels come and say, Tzna hotcha ala shamayim. It's not, you're going to take your glorious Torah and you're going to give it down to these kvetchers over here on earth, like, who can't wait till the next mangal, till the next barbecue or whatever it is. And they'll do you a favor, like, it'll be kosher or something like that. Keep your glory in heaven. So Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, answer them. It's the Gemara. Moshe Rabbeinu says to them, did you ever want to eat anything treif? Chas v'sholem. Right? Do you know what it means to have a Yetzer Hara? No. Well, that's the whole point. So what you're doing like robots. You're malachim. They're malachim. You understand? What you're doing, you're kacha atem nivreitem, and kacha atem mitnagim. Right? But real avodat Hashem is that you're actually tabal bechira. You're a person of choice. You understand? You're a man of choice. I could do this. I could do this. I could do this. And it's not easy to keep Torah and mitzvahs. And you realize that that you want to serve Hashem. So that's real avodas Hashem. Okay. Now, the essence of a Yid is that he does want to serve Hashem. So the union of Shalom is, so you could look at another person and you could say, oh, this guy is remember this word, oisvorf? Translate it?
I don't think you can.
Yeah, an outcast. There's a lot of societies that they operate on the basis of behave yourself or we're going to throw you out. So an oisvorf, somebody's been thrown out, somebody's a reject, On the other hand, you can say, wait a minute, I'm not really complete without this person. Right? I'm not really complete without this person. And it's true, this person has a lot to fix. But you know what? I'm partly responsible to help him fix it.
It's giving me shivers since you said that.
It's too cold?
No.
I don't understand.
When you said that, I'm not what Moshe said. It was so
Okay?
beautiful.
Baruch Hashem.
Shake.
Let me just finish the thought, okay? So I'm not complete without him. Okay? And so that's the end of Shalom. In other words, I don't let my Einei Nevuah, my eyes that read facts, I don't let them interfere with my Einei Mashiach that sees the depth of the person, that this person really does want to do good, and forget about all the other negative stuff. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. Okay? So that's the way I'm understanding the idea that, in other words, that at our core, every Yid does want to serve Hashem. You know, I've heard stories about, when the Lubavitch Rebbe was, and these stories continue today, sends people out to go put on tefillin with Yidden. Do you remember, were you aware of how much opposition there was when the Rebbe first started doing that? The Rebbe started this mamash 3 days before Melchemet Shishat HaYamim. You know the story? Mm-hmm. On 3 days before the 6-day war, Levi Eshkol got on the radio here, and he was the prime minister. He was the prime minister, and he was trying to reassure the people that everything's going to be okay. But what happened was that his voice betrayed the truth, that he himself was literally trembling to death.
Yeah, great crisis.
On that day, the Rebbe let all his Hasidim over here know, get out of the bomb shelters and go put on tefillin with every chayal and with everybody that you could put on tefillin.
Wow.
And on that day, the Rebbe said, don't worry about anything, there's going to be great miracles, you know. He mamish predicted the entire 6-day war. If you can see on YouTube, you can see the Syrian ambassador going crazy. He's talking at the United Nations. He's going crazy. He says, we don't understand what happened. They don't understand what happened. They don't understand what happened, you know? Mamish.
It's after,
yeah, they also in the middle. Like, you know, there was never any such mice in history except, like, you know, with Gidon and so on, and Tanakh and so on. But in modern history, there was no such thing, okay? Now, believe it or not, there was a lot of opposition against the Lubavitcher Rebbe at the time from other religious leaders. What are you doing? You're going and you're taking a Yid is stepping out of a tray-for restaurant, and you're stopping him in the street, and you say, hey, let's put on tefillin.
Why not? What's the problem?
It's such a holy thing, you know, like, you see, you're a chassid, so like, but for example, the Misnagdim were like really fiercely against the Hasidim because they were spreading teachings of Hasidus, and they're bringing but the Kabbalah for years and years, for centuries, was kept to you understand. So okay, so you know the story with the Rebbe, with Alter Rebbe and Levi Yitzchak. You don't know the story?
No, I don't know the story.
The Maggid will take a little power nap in the afternoon, and one day this Misnagid comes in, and he says, look at this, and he's holding a page of Zohar that he found in the gutter, and he says, you Hasidim are responsible for this because you're bringing these holy teachings to people who have no idea how holy they are, and I found this page from a holy book in the gutter, and you're responsible for this, and this is a serious thing. Don't forget, you know, nowadays with the printing presses, with the this and the that, we don't have the same respect for a page of but shame is something where there's halachas about, you know, how you treat books that are no longer. So the Alter Rebbe said, let me explain something to you. And he said, let me tell you a parable. There was a king whose one and only son was very, very sick. And none of the doctors were able to heal him. finally somebody came along and he says, I learned about a particular potion that I could make. It requires certain herbs and certain minerals, and that will save his life. But one of the minerals is available only from a certain precious gem, and a very precious gem. And it happened to be that the crown jewel of the king's crown was that gem. So he says, and the only one that I know of available in the entire country is what's in your crown. So if you'll permit me, I'll have to grind it up to make this potion. And the king immediately took off his crown and he says, here, take my gem and do what you need to do to save my son. And the man took it, and by the time the potion was ready, the prince was already so sick that he couldn't even open his mouth. So they poured it over his lips and rubbed it on his lips, but a lot of it was running down the side of his mouth. But that one little drop that they managed to get in saved his life. So Dr. Rebbe said the same thing. The Zohar is the crown jewel, one of Hashem's crown jewels. The prince, the Jewish people are very sick spiritually, physically, and so on. And the time came where it was said to the Rebbeinu Shalom, we need to take the crown jewel to save the people. And Hashem gladly said, here it is, go and use it. Okay. So a lot of it is doing this job. Some of it is getting spilled down the side of the mouth and ending up in the gutter. But Hashem still wants us to do it because we need to save the lives of these people. When the Maggid woke up later in the afternoon, he called over Rav Levi Yitzchak and the Alter Rebbe and said, what happened? So they told him the whole story. So he says, I want you to know that you saved my life. Because while I was sleeping, my soul ascended, and there was an accusation, exactly the accusation that you heard from this Misnagid. An accusation was being brought against me for spreading these holy teachings to people who are not on the level. And then came forth an argument, which was the argument that you, Reb Shneir Zalman, presented, and based on this argument, with this parable, you saved my life. Okay? So, why did I bring that up? Why did I bring that up? No?
I'm whole without, I'm not whole. If I see someone who's doing something really bad,
Oh,
instead
so
of looking at what he's doing bad, I don't even see.
well, that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about that.
I don't let it affect the way I see. Show
What are you going to do? Are you going to say this person doesn't deserve a chance, right?
Right,
In
67.
other words, right?
No,
In 67. We're talking about tefillin, right? So I remember there was one guy phoned up the yeshiva back then. I was a bocher in yeshiva. He phones up and he says, he was being very sarcastic, obviously. He says, listen, I want to come put on tefillin, but I can only come on Friday night, okay?
This is in Montreal?
Yeah.
It was going on
The
not
guy
just in
was-
Israel, also
All over the world, all over
He's
the
telling
world.
fine Jews and put on
Yeah,
Jews.
yeah, all over the world. It was a worldwide campaign. Goes on to this very day. And then he says, and I want my dog, I think it's very Jewish. I want my dog to put on tefillin
Come
also.
on.
Huh?
Yeah.
He was being sarcastic. He was like saying, like, haha,
Mocking.
you're going,
He's mocking.
mocking, yeah.
Right.
He was mocking. He was like saying, you guys are going and putting on tefillin with like, people in the street. You see a Jew walking with a shiksa, and you stop him and you put on tefillin with him. What are you doing? What do you think you're doing, right? And the Rebbe says,
They're doing something.
put on tefillin.
Hmm.
I don't care if you came out of a restaurant. You're a Jew. Now, I've heard, like when people would approach somebody, and on an intellectual level, like, like there were guys who would go on campus also to get people to put on tefillin, and they were like, like more scholarly people would approach a professor and say, hey, put on tefillin. And the guy would say, why? And they'd get into a discussion, why yes, why no? And the guy would walk away and not put on tefillin. The same professor, a 15-year-old shmendrik from the yeshiva, who could barely speak proper English, goes over to the professor and says, hey, would you like to put on tefillin? The guy says, yes.
Yeah.
What's the difference? The difference is that one was approaching him from the head. And from the head, his head was already a little bit messed up. He wasn't into putting on tefillin. The little 15-year-old, he didn't know from the intellectual stuff. He just knew the Rebbe sent me to put on tefillin with Yidden. You have a Yiddish in the Shome, let's put on tefillin. And the guy would say, okay. Right? Understand? I mean, there's all these amazing stories. Shlomo was a shliach of the Rebbe, and it wasn't like, like some of the shluchim today, like, they get some seed money. Shlomo was a shliach of the Rebbe without a penny. He'd go to the Catskills in summer, and he'd hang around in the lobbies of these Jewish hotels, and he'd speak to people, he'd sing a little bit. And he didn't have many money to pay for a room. So at night he'd go out to the parking lot, and people in those days, they didn't lock their doors on the cars. And the cars were big cars, like the back seat was like a whole couch. And he'd go and he'd sleep in the car. And then if the owner of the car would come in the morning and he was still sleeping in there, he'd say, hey, what are you doing in my car? And she would say, oh, I was so tired, I thought I was getting into my car. Anyway, Moshiach was serious nefesh to go out and speak to Yidden. What, despite the fact, don't take any offense, David, despite the fact that his songs are so beautiful, what really turned on the people is more than the songs, is the way that he sang them. More than the nigun itself. In other words, the neshama that was coming through in the song, that's what got everybody.
Actually, for me, I didn't even notice his songs from his Torahs. His Torahs would just blew me out so much. I wasn't even aware of his songs until quite a few times. Because his Torahs were so just mind-boggling, but just like just exploding all the time.
I would say a little bit differently than mind-boggling. I would say heart-stirring.
Yeah, sure.
Soul-stirring.
Yeah,
okay.
Good, sure.
In other words, mind-boggling in the sense that it pushed the mind aside and said, "I got a neshama."
Yeah.
Right. And that's the union of Sholem. The night that Reb Shlomo came to our house back in 1989 here in Yerushalayim, and he came to give us smicha, and there were two, and I wish I would know. I would have taken the names of those guys and their phone number, but I didn't. There were two film students that were doing a documentary on Reb Shlomo. And when they came in, they told us, listen, we're not religious. Don't offer us a kippah. don't engage us in anything about religion. We're here to do a documentary, and that's that. Shlomo is an interesting subject, and that's that. Well, guess what happened? Halfway through, these two guys put their cameras down, and they decided to join in with everybody and sing and listen to what he was teaching. And they realized it's not about the movie. And like Mamish, their souls woke up. Okay, their souls woke up, and that's the union of Sholem. The union of Sholem is that you realize this Yid. Maybe he's a gambler, maybe he's this, maybe he's that, right? But you know what? He has a neshama, as a pin to the yid, and he is a part of me. And that's what I want to focus on. That's what I want to see. Now, if somebody comes and says, hey, but hey, this guy stole $50 from me, okay? So I'm not going to say, oh, I only see the good. See the good, but if he stole $50, he has to return the $50. Understand? It's not like it's not like when Shlomo only saw the good. But you know what? One day Shlomo heard that there were some parents on the Moshiach that were hitting their children. You know what he did? At 2:00 in the morning, he sent a couple of people around with candles in their hands, and they woke up every adult in the Moshav before you were born for an emergency meeting. And he had a meeting with the parents, and he says, anybody that hits their kids cannot live on this Moshav. If you don't accept not to hit your children, you can't live on this Moshav.
It's really interesting. I remember when I was doing the Avodah on Shlomo, and one of the first stories that his daughter told me, so I was talking to her about it, Dory, and she told me that he was a teacher. He was teaching young boys, and you would never, I mean, back then it would be the point of hitting them. So instead of hitting them, you'd always just call them to the side and have conversations with them. And the principal actually got really upset with him.
And wanted to fire him.
He wanted to fire him because he wouldn't beat the children.
Yeah.
Which daughter told you this?
Dari.
You're from the Moshiach?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Maria Berkey.
Right, so who's your parents?
I mean Zelda. His grandmother was in Europe.
Oh, okay.
The mother of the Moshiach.
Yes. She was the holy cook, right?
Yep.
Okay, sure.
Also the house of love and prayer.
Oh, that was before.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the union of Shalom. In other words, so Shlomo says, "B'ramat hashalom lo ra'iti oto gonev klal." Now, what does it mean, lo ra'iti oto gonev klal? Is that possible that you mamish don't see the negative at all? I don't know if that's possible, but I think that I don't know if the word ra'iti is the right word to be used over here, or like Shlomo may have used it in English. I didn't see him stealing. See what he's likely going with the Tzemach Tzedek's teaching on the Ahavat Yisrael. Tzemach Tzedek says on the Ahavat Yisrael, he says, "V'ahavta l'reyacha kamocha." Love your fellow like you love yourself. Now, did you have dessert last night? Or you had some dessert, right? Were you a perfectly good boy yesterday? No. But when dessert was being served, right, you didn't for 1 second say, I don't deserve this. Right?
Well, that's no way you can look at it as.
But 1 second, let me just finish the thought 1 second, okay? You didn't say I don't deserve this because I didn't learn enough today, or because I did this or that or that. In other words, you know that you've got these stains, so to speak, okay, these defects, right? But you love yourself enough that you're not looking at the defects, you're looking at the positive, if you're a healthy person. So that doesn't mean that you don't know that there are things that need to be fixed. You know that there are things to be fixed, right? But that's not what you're looking at. Okay? That's what Shlomo is saying. On the level of Shalom, you're accepting yourself enough that you love yourself enough and you accept yourself enough that you want the good things in life, and you don't go around punishing yourself if, assuming that you're normal and healthy, right? But otherwise, so we have to when it comes to somebody else, don't look at their stains. Don't look at their stains. Now, to do that, you have to have really good eyes. when Shlomo was hugging, I asked you once, I don't remember, but you said, did you walk with him and when he around on Broadway when he was hugging all the homeless people? Mamish,
No, I missed that.
you can smell them from 20
Yeah.
feet away, right?
Yeah.
You mamish have to have good eyes that you can focus so much on the person's neshama that you're oblivious to the stench.
I don't see how we could have done that, but I think he was just doing it anyway.
He noticed it, but it didn't stop him. It
He didn't
didn't
focus
stop
on
him.
it. That's not
And
what
he
he
was
focused on.
It
radiating
didn't
the same.
stop him. Right,
He was radiating the same love.
right,
He wasn't holding his breath.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very holy level.
So yes, it is
Absolutely.
extremely holy level. Understand? It's like, what do you call it? It's like the bigger the tzaddik, the greater their capability to turn a real Russia into a Baal Tshuva. A little time rabbi or a little time tzaddik, maybe he'll turn around like a little time sinner. You know what I mean? But to turn around somebody who's been like really living a certain lifestyle, a lifestyle of evil for a long time, to get somebody like that to there are stories but not that many stories but I don't know if you guys know my friend Zev. He was one of the biggest drummers in Montreal. He lives here in Israel now. He has 3 girls, Baruch Hashem. And this guy is very intuitive. When he first started coming to our house, and we would invite him on Friday nights, and he'd sit by the table quietly the entire evening. There were other guests, and usually before benching, I would sort of turn to him and I'd say, "Okay, you want to say something?" And he'd say and he had just started learning, and he was saying things in Rashi, insights that he had in the Chumash and Rashi, that I, after 30 years of learning Rashi, had not noticed yet, In any case, then he would turn to every one of the guests and he would say one sentence or less, and everybody was like, "How did you know that about me?" He would mamish right to their core. So and he's not a Lubavitcher, but somebody took him once to 770. The Rebbe was already sick. It was the years, a few months before the Rebbe was lifted. And he comes back and he's really blown away. So I said to him, and I think he got to see the Rebbe for 1 second when they opened up the curtain there on the balcony so that the people could see the Rebbe in the wheelchair, And then they closed the curtain. So he's blown away. I say, what impressed you so much? So he says, do you realize that the Rebbe turned real gangsters around? He saw, nobody pointed out, hey, this guy used to be a gangster, this guy used to be a gangster. He can tell on his own. But he says, the Rebbe actually made real gangsters into Bali Tshuva. The famous story in the Gemara between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish was a band leader of thieves. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan turned him around, made him about Tshuva. So it's one thing, you go over to a Yid, he's eating some pork chops and so on, and you explain to him, maybe you didn't know that you're not allowed to eat this, maybe you didn't understand why you can't eat this, You have the conversation, and he says, okay, I'm gonna keep kosher. It's another thing, a gangster type of personality, to get somebody like that to turn around, lo pashut. And you have to have mamish, you have to have really good eyes. You have to have really good eyes. Because that poor person already is too convinced that he's evil. And to convince him that he's not gone is a major, major achievement. So that's the emes lamit.
Right.
Beautiful.